After we went off the air last week, at the strike of midnight, there was a live stream from the Toy Association at Playcon in San Francisco, which is where all the big toy companies get from, all different walks of life, small and big, and companies and distributors. They all meet not for showing their new product or stuff, but just to discuss the future of the industry and the changes and everything like that, and store displays and stuff. It's a very closed environment kind of thing. For some interesting reason, the Toy Association's panel that they were going to have an open forum panel, and they actually streamed it live. And one of the people on TFW 2005 managed to get the link and shared it online. This thing is 2 hours long. A lot of it is a lot of jaw yapping and stuff. Some of it is interesting stuff because Facebook is there and they're talking about advertising for them. There's a lot of different companies, small and big, that stand up and talk. The only reason why I bring this up is because KB Toys and their new CEO, which is Elia Kassoff here, he actually takes the stage and talks about the future of KB Toys and what they plan to do. And I'm just going to give the bullet point here more or less of what they are planning to do is by 2018 for the holiday season, they want to have 300 to 400 pop-up stores. And what those are, pop-up stores, are similar to that like when Halloween comes around and they have like the Halloween stores that kind of just pop up.
Yeah,
they'll take
come
over
out of nowhere kind of thing.
They come out of nowhere, take a large amount of, empty space in a mall or in like a mini mall, and then they'll just be there for, the beginning of October, and then they're gone. So they're planning to do, what they want to do is they want to do 300 to 400 pop-up stores for the holiday season, see which one of those are successful in which regions, and then if that's the case, continue with those. They plan that given the success, they're pretty much optimistic view is by early 2019 they'll have 600, 800 permanent stores. And again, the plan is for those permanent stores to be in malls. They were saying how they've actually had, and this was actually something interesting that they said, and I firmly believe it's true, because sometimes when you have these guys, when they're on stage and they're trying to sell you their business, sometimes it's, they're trying to make it sound better than it is. But one thing that they said that was really true, that really rung with me was, they were saying how malls have been having a lot of problems.
Yeah,
recently.
There's a lot of them closing right now.
And when these guys said that they were taking over KB Toys, almost every major mall company in the world contacted them saying, we need you more than ever. And they were saying how there's a lot of stuff represented in malls right now. There hasn't been in like a giant mall situation in family malls. The toy situation has been kind of sketchy. So they're more than happy to give them the space to make them a reality. So a lot of malls have been contacting KB Toys going, we are behind you 200%. We want you back in this ecosystem, if you will. And so that was something, and it is true though. It was very interesting, and they were just talking about how like there's actually malls that are going to be bringing in their investors and banks and stuff to even help this KB Toys be successful, because they were saying that back in the day when KB Toys used to exist, malls actually were kind of giving them trouble, because what KB Toys used to do, and I actually remember this when they mentioned this, they used to bring their product into the hall. Like not the hall, but whatever you want to call it.
Like the main walkway or whatever.
The main like they'd have all their bins of stuff, and it would be and sometimes the malls would complain.
Yeah.
Because KB Toys, because it was a small location, they would kind of have all their bins on the inside when it was closed, but when it was open, they would put all those bins on the outside, and malls used to bug them. Now they're saying like a lot of these same mall owners from like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, now they're like, do whatever you want. Like we just want to have that activity and stuff. And then they were talking about how, and this was the one that really rung well with me, is that the one thing that the guy, and again, it kind of made me worried, because the people that seem to be in charge of KB Toys, it seems like they're people that haven't been in this industry very long. So, like they're obviously going to hire people that are part of that industry. They made a mention of like, there's a lot of former Toys R Us employees that are very valuable that are going to be joining our ranks.
Nice,
But if
nice,
I feel like right now the people that are in charge are kind of clueless at what's going on, because one thing that they were surprised at was, again, it was one thing that the mall associations were contacting them in millions, and there was tons of emails when this news broke.
Right.
They were surprised that the collector community contacted them. And they didn't name names specifically, but they were saying how there was a lot of different collector communities that wanted to get all this information from us and telling us how, you know, like, hey, this is important because when you're talking like the Transformer community, let's say, I'm not saying they said that, but like when you're talking the Transformer community, you're talking a built-in community of, you know, 100,000 people like that rather go to a retail store to pick up their product than online because of shipping and what if you're someone, if you're a mint in box collector, you know, you run the risk of stuff getting damaged. I mean, I know from a personal standpoint, all these amiibo collectors have hated having to buy stuff online because Amazon and but Best Buy, they kind of just throw it in there and then good luck. So a lot of times they show up damaged, or sometimes the card back is folded. Now, I open things, so I don't care personally. But, you know, for a lot of mint and box collectors or carded collectors, that's important to them. And that's why they like to go in person, because they could check out the product and find the one that's in the best condition. And not to mention today, when it comes to QC, sometimes you even have to look at the toys in the packaging and see the ones that have the better paint.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So collectors still value that experience, and they were saying how, like, you know, they were surprised how collectors were contacting them, but now they're starting to understand how important that is. But
it's good. I think that's good though. At least, like, you know, everyone's coming to them now, so they're gonna like, oh, yeah, okay, we didn't think about that. Oh, we didn't think about this.
The one thing I'm happy is how open-minded they are. They're actually, because they said we've been talking very closely with the collector community. And, you know, we were trying to address things like they were saying how scalping was an issue and stuff like that, which I always feel scalping is something you can't control. And as a business, scalping is the best thing that could ever happen to you, personally. Someone buying all your product is not a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Sad to say.
But one thing that they did say, though, is they're actually considering for each one of their individual locations to actually hire a designated 100%, and they use in air quotes here, toy nerd, meaning like they want to hire someone that's going to be at the store who's not a manager, but he's the expert in everything that's hip. Everything
that's
like,
because a lot of times you hear that they don't want to hire people like that at all.
Yeah, well, Toys R Us specifically, Toys R Us, I was told many times by people that work at Toys R Us that when they do the interviews, which they do them in group interviews, the second they find out someone's a collector in that group, that's the person that's not going to get the job. So, it's kind of a, you know, because for them,
I could kind of see it from their way as well, where it's like, oh, I'm a collector, I'm going to get the new hotness first and then kind of put it out. Like, I mean, I can kind of see how they would view
not
it
only
negatively.
Would they get the new hotness first, but they would get it at a discount.
Yeah, and then you can flip it on top of that. I could see them seeing it why they would see it I could see both sides.
I see it from the sense that they rather, like, if we hire him, he's buying the product at a discount, and it's the high demand product.
Yeah.
If we don't hire him, he's still going to be buying the stuff anyways, but now at full price, and we're getting other people who are buying the other product too. So it makes sense. But in their case, I think their logic is just, I think they feel there's a value to have someone there who really knows the products, who really knows what's popular, who really knows, like, you know what, maybe we don't need 3 cases of this or 2 cases of that.
Yeah.
Like one thing they addressed was fingerlings, which was it was kind of like the Tickle Me Elmo of this past holiday season.
Okay. I don't think.
Yeah, I know. Like me too. Like, I was like, well, I knew about it because there was a few people on my Twitter that were looking for it for their children, and they were asking Canadians, "Hey, have you seen any in Canada?" Because they were having problems on Amazon.com and stuff.
Right.
So, fingerlings were a big deal this past holiday season. It was banana crazy. Everyone was trying to find them. And they were saying how part of the problem is a lot of these retailers didn't know it was a big deal, so they didn't think to stock it. So, but if they would have had a toy nerd or some guy that the writing is on the wall, you know, like it's kind of like, you know, if you have that toy nerd guy, he'll be able to tell you, yeah, don't buy too many cases of X, but definitely buy cases of Y. Like this character. Like if you're just a normal manager at Toys R Us and they go, okay, we have to buy 3 cases of all these characters. Should we get more Boba Fett or more of, random alien dude here? You know what I mean? So the toy nerd guy would be able to like direct them and make the better calls. I don't know how extensive the knowledge would have to be of that individual, because then they'd have to know girl products too and everything.
Yeah.
But it's just, they say they're going to have one for every store that's going to really help with all that stuff. Another thing that they mentioned, which was interesting, is they also want to really emphasize on the collector aspect of bringing in representatives into the store from the companies for autograph sessions and display sessions.
Oh, wow.
And they were saying how they were inspired by Costco, because you go into Costco and there's always someone showing off not just the food, like getting the free samples of food from Costco, but sometimes you'll have, like, on the opposite side of the food section, the guy who's showing you about this new Clorox bleach or something, or this new wax for cleaning a car, and they'll have representatives there. And they said that the play aspect and the test aspect of toy stores has something that Toys R Us tried to kind of adopt, but now that Toys R Us doesn't exist, it doesn't exist anymore. And they were saying it's something that Walmart clearly isn't going to adopt, and a lot of others won't. So they were thinking we could bring in a Hasbro representative, and maybe during the whole week he's going to be pimping the newest product of Power of the Primes. And as he was explaining that sounded very reminiscent to what the Japanese do right now. A lot of times when new product is coming out, they'll go to a mall and they'll take over like a midsection of a mall and have huge displays and like a panel saying
I know, same for like when they were launching video games, they'll have the game director there and stuff like that. I remember No More Heroes, he was signing toilet paper because that's how you save. You go into the bathroom and stuff like that. So, little gimmicks like that. And
so that's why. So they were inspired. They were inspired by Costco, and they were saying, like, you know what, we could like bring in, like, I guess in their case, let's say like a John Warden into a big name, high traffic mall, KB Toys, and he'll be there pimping the new product, the first week that it comes out and stuff, and really have something together. Or alternatively, if there's a small product, and that was another thing too they were talking about, was because a lot of the people at this forum, this like convention, they were talking about also small companies that are trying to build up with their products and stuff, and saying like Toys R Us was great because it had all that floor space, so there was room for small companies to have a representation too. How is that going to be represented in this case? Because most KB Toys are notorious for small mall locations.
Yeah.
And they were saying they were playing with the idea of something they want to call the KB Toys experience, which is they want to have 1 or 2 large locations that are going to be dedicated to liquidation clear out stuff, or alternatively also small companies to show off their products. It seems like they're really trying to fill the void that Toys R Us created, while trying to be a different toy store than what toys stores have been up to this point. And I think that one thing that's smart is I feel like they're probably the first American company that really is saying, you know what, the adult market is the future.
Yeah,
it's them recognizing that more than ever now, because they were saying like that 25 above market that's buying all these pop vinyls,
yeah, exactly,
in droves. They're making up for a majority of the market, and we have to nurture that market more than ever, because if you ignore it, you're going to lose it. And they're seeing how the younger markets are more connected, as they call it, meaning like tablets and stuff like that. And while you could still try to get them with product, right now you have a guarantee with an adult market, and it's a market that, I mean, right now we're in our 20s and 30s, but even in our 40s and 50s, we're still going to be buying. We're still going to be buying for our children, and you want to keep those guys. You don't want them to abandon ship and go, you know what, I'm going to just start buying video games for my kid. I give up also.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's them. It's if you have the time, I'll post the link in the description to the whole thing. It's about 2 hours long. It's a little over 2 hours, but it's really interesting, and a lot of different people also. There's a lot of different companies that also ask a lot of questions. There were some names that go over my head. There was a few that I'm familiar with, like Jazzware was there and a lot of others. But it's something that's really interesting for the future of KB Toys and how it's going to affect the market for the toy industry. And again, it's the fact that malls are just jumping on them, the fact that investors in malls are jumping on them, the fact that collector, groups are contacting them. It's going to definitely play a big influence on how their future is going to be and where they're going to be. The only thing they didn't mention, from my own selfish perspective, was there was no mention yet of a presence in the good old Great White North. So far, this sounds like this is only something that's going to be test marketed right now in America, in the United States. And I guess, just a guess for now, I guess if it gets to a point that it really is a runaway success, perhaps we might, for the first time ever, see good old KB in the red and white. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. But definitely check out the link. I'll post it. The KB Toys presentation itself happens at 48 minutes and 35 seconds, and it goes for about good 20 minutes there. But if you really get a chance, kind of listen to the whole thing, because it's a really educational experience on what's going on in the toy industry right now. And I mean, they were talking about all kinds of numbers and companies that went bankrupt, and during during
their history and stuff like
that. Well, because they were pretty much, they wanted to address to a lot of people going like between the years of 1982 and 1996, here's the following toy companies that went bankrupt, and yet toy sales were still fine. And they were saying like there was like Kid World, there was like a whole bunch of like companies that went bankrupt throughout the years, and how toy sales were still like, we were up 4%, we were up 8%. Now, one guy even pointed out and said, well, video games play a factor in that and everything. But the point is that, because that was especially the video game boom with Nintendo. Yeah. The point is, they were pointing out, like saying like, we've lost companies in the past before. We survived, we changed, we could continue doing that, and we'll see. And I mean, like I say personally, I kind of look at where Japan is right now, and to me, that's the schematic of where I think the toy industry will be in the future. Maybe they're going to probably see the same thing also. But definitely check out that link from Playcon. I'll post it in the description. It's awesome stuff.